part 4 of this life renovation course. Of course, this one is called Stress Busters. In this session, we're going to look at our response to the weariness of worry and how worry can really bring us down. It's amazing what a worry is. It's amazing how the things that we worry about are just crazy sometimes. Some people worry because they're not worried. It's amazing to me how we can go to bed with a small, relatively, controllable situation, a little problem, but by 4 a.m. that problem has become huge, and for some reason it's keeping us awake. I remember many years ago, or just a number of years ago, I was upgraded to business class, and I think someone was having a bit of a laugh, and they put next to me a Catholic priest. They thought, these guys will get along, a reverend and a priest, they're going to get along, it should be great fun. And so I'm sitting next to this priest, and the guy was sweating profusely. I mean, he looked like he was going to, I thought he was going to die or something. Or at the very least, he looked like he was about to have a heart attack or something. But really, what he was on the brink of was probably a panic attack. And he's sweating, and he's got these beads, and I thought, man, that guy is praying the fastest rosary I have ever seen. I was brought up a Catholic. I understand the rosary, praying the rosary. I've prayed some pretty fast ones myself when we were in some trouble and desperate and didn't know about what prayer was really about, that it wasn't really about repetition. So we used to go for it. I could pray a pretty fast rosary. This guy was going so fast, I was freaking out. I'm going, you can't pray that fast, man. And then I realised, I looked closely, and I realised they weren't rosary beads, they were worry beads. And the guy was so worried, he's running these worry beads through his fingers. I mean, years ago we had this guy around the same time, this guy who's passed away now, is one of the richest men in our country, Renovation, and he used to have gold worry beads because he could worry in style. I don't know about you, I turn to this guy and I have this belief that, if the plane crashes, I'm going to live because I've got things to do, I've got a purpose to fulfill. And much like Paul, the apostle, who was, full of faith and full of life, he often would make these statements about, hey, look, the ship's going to explode, it's going to crash, it's going to whatever, but, we're all going to live because you're with me. And so I actually turned to this guy, I said to him, look, you're in the second safest place in this aircraft. You're in the second safest seat. Because if this thing crashes, I'm going to live. So you're in the second safest seat, buddy. And I don't think he really appreciated that. I don't think it did anything for his worry. But it's so easy to get caught up in worry. We worry about so many different things. We worry about the ATO and the CIB and the TEE and the GST. We worry about the KFC and the FAT. We worry about education, recreation, information, alien invasion, constipation. We worry about all sorts of stuff, We worry that we won't have enough money, and then we worry that we won't manage it well when we do. We worry that the world's going to end before the kettle boils. I mean, we just worry. The one thing that I do know is this, that worry is something that we've learned to do. And there's no such thing as a born worrier. It's a learned response to life. There's basically 2 ways that we have learned to worry. We've learned to worry from 2 main sources. Firstly, we've learned to worry from experiences. We learn to worry from experiences. After years of mistakes, failures, unfulfilled expectations, we've discovered that things don't always turn out right, and out of these experiences we've formed the unhealthy habit of worrying. The second source that we've learned to worry from is examples. So the first one was experiences, the second one is examples. There are many models around us that teach us to worry. Anxious parents raise anxious kids. All studies in this area show children usually pick up their parents' worries. And anxiety is contagious. Anxious bosses create stressed out staff. Highly strung people create an anxious atmosphere around them. But the good news is that since worry is a learned response to life, it can be unlearned. Jesus, who, we follow the teachings of Jesus, that he taught this, and he made this statement, and he made it, Luke records this, who often recorded things as a doctor. He did things based on empirical evidence. And so Luke records Jesus making this statement: make up your mind not to worry. What an interesting statement to make. Well, I think it's really important to understand that not only the things that do worry us, but how worry works, but I think it's important to have keys to overcoming worry. So I'm going to give in this session just four keys to overcoming worry. Number one, realize that worry is useless. This is a great starting point for overcoming worry. Worry is useless, well, because it's counterproductive. It does us no good to worry. It's a well-known statement. It's stewing without doing. Worry is counterproductive. Worry has never changed anything. So, of course, it's useless because it hasn't changed anything. Worry cannot change the past. Worry cannot control the future. Worry only makes us miserable today. So worry's never solved a problem. It's never paid a bill. It's never cured an illness. It only paralyzes us and consequently stops us from working on solutions. So worry has never changed anything. Worry causes us to carry dead weight. There's a well-known ancient proverb. It says, an anxious heart weighs a man down. It's a waste of time and energy to allow worry to have that place in our life. So we've got to learn to overcome worry. And in overcoming it, we have to realize it's useless. And of course, worry exaggerates our problems. It plays on our imagination. I don't know if you've ever noticed the idea, as I mentioned earlier, that worry seems to get bigger. The longer it's around and the more we focus on the problem, we tend to add more details to it. We go over and over and over, adding more details, and consequently we amplify our problems, and we amplify it to the point where it causes intense worry. And when a problem is magnified, worry really sets in. But the psalmists used to write, the ancient psalmists used to write psalm after psalm. They used to make this statement, magnify God. And the idea of that is a great mental exercise, if nothing else, is to make God bigger than our problems and make God bigger than the issues that we're facing. And really the psalmists used to highlight that idea. So the first thing, number one, if we're going to overcome worry, is we've got to realize worrying is useless. Second thing, number two, we're going to be people that overcome worry, is we've got to learn to change what we can and let go of what we can't. I'm not talking about ignorance here or pretending that the problems don't exist. What I'm saying is we need to be realistic about what we can do and what we can't do. Change what we can, learn to let go of what we can't. I like to do there's a couple of exercises in this area that I think. Exercise one is the what if exercise. The what if exercise is simply this, is to ask the question, well, what if? What if as a businessman or a husband or a leader, or I lose everything? What if, everything, falls apart and I lose everything? What would I do then? Well, would I survive it? Well, yeah, I would. What would I do? Well, as long as I'm breathing, I'd keep going. As long as I'm breathing, I'd know I'd start again. If I've done it before, I can do it again. And I know that if there's one thing I've learned over time is, we learn from our failures, and we've got to cut loose things and move on. And so I think the what if exercise is a great exercise to do. What if things don't work out? What if? Well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, hey, I'll keep going. Second exercise is the can do, can't do exercise. So we get a sheet of paper, we make a list of all the things that we're worrying about, and it's easy to come up with that list, and we list them all down, and then we get another sheet of paper and we draw a line down the middle. On one side we put the the can-do list, and on the other side it's the can't-do list. And then we get our worry list and we divide it in the can-do column and the can't-do column. We put the things that we can do something about, we put in the can-do column. The things that we have no control over, we put in the can't-do column. And that will then consequently help us to define what we can do, what we can't do. And once we've got them marked out in those columns, then we plan to work toward doing something about the things in the can-do column and determine to let go of the things in the can't-do column, the things that are out of our control. That's a really important thing. The second thing is that we've got to change what we can and learn to let go of what we can't. The third thing, number 3 on the list, is live a life of thanksgiving. There's something about this that is just so powerful. That heart of thanksgiving will just do something. Living a life of thanksgiving with that, a life where we're just using grateful language. There's something to be said for that releases things in our life. And fourthly, we're going to overcome worry. Then we've got to allow God to be God in our lives. Worry will distract us from God, because worry by definition, the word literally means a distraction or preoccupation with things that cause anxiety and stress. So worry by definition distracts us from God because we've got our focus on other things. Worry hinders our growth in God. If we want to grow, we want people who want to be Christ followers and grow in God, and we're open to what that holds, we're open to the teachings of Christ. If we follow his teachings, he said, well, I tell you, do not worry about your life. He says, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? Well, he's saying, look, and why do you worry? He questions us. So do not worry. Over and over he states this, and just a couple of paragraphs he makes all these statements about not worrying. And he says, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. But before he makes this statement, he says this. Before he says, therefore do not worry, he says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So he's saying, in the context of worry, he's saying, look, hey, if you can seek first the kingdom, you don't have to worry about your future. That God can add to your life everything he wants you to have and experience if you're open to it. Okay, you're going to spend some time with your facilitator now and enjoy your time creating conversation around this idea of worry. And it's my hope you'll get beyond being a person that's controlled by worry and really find some encouragement amongst one another and hearing each other's stories. So enjoy your time with facilitator, and we'll see you next time for part 5 of Stress Bust.